Hey, what's up, guys? I wanted to make a video just kind of going through the different slides and photos that I took that didn't make it onto any of the other YouTube videos that I've made about this shed conversion. But this video basically is about a shed that I bought and turned into a tiny home in less than $14,000. So I've got a little less than $14,000 in this entire home. So here we go. This is the shed when I first saw it. This is in its very early stages. It's sitting in the front yard of someone located in the city of Ozark, Alabama. And it's kind of rural southern Alabama. I found this shed on Craigslist for $5,500. It was advertised as being about 6 months old, and I couldn't pass it up. So it's 32 feet long by 12 feet wide, and from the floor up to the top, the peak of the ceiling is about 13, maybe 13 and a half feet, I want to say. So this is it. This is the first time I ever saw it, and I hired a moving company. I think it cost about $600 to move it from this location to an hour away to my property where we began working on it. So, to go to the next slide here. This is the site that I chose on the property to put the cabin, to put the shed. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of taping it out and showing you the dimensions of the cabin. So this is 12 by 32 feet. So all the guy had to do was come in, he saw the tape, and just plopped it down right on top of that tape, and it made it really easy for him. And it also kind of helped me visualize where it would be. But then let me go back to the front yard and what it looked like here. So this is kind of just like a little open prairie in this part of the property here. We just thought it was a really pretty spot. And here you can see this is another shot, kind of more of like a panoramic shot, but I had done a lot of clearing and stuff here in this area to open it up more, and so that's all the shrubs and the trees and stuff that I piled up over there for burning later. So here we are loading it up, and this is getting it up on the truck. It was just amazing to see how they do this. This little ramp right here actually, using a remote control, the guy actually sent this ramp out, and it actually went under the shed and just kind of scooped it up, and then it kind of retracted the ramp and pulled it right up on his trailer. It was amazing. And under 15 minutes he had that thing up on a trailer. It was just incredible. So he puts these flags on, and we're ready to hit the road basically, and I'm following behind him in my car. So this is us moving it onto the property, and that's my dad right there. He was helping out with the process. And we've got all these cinder blocks over here to the side. We just went to Lowe's and bought, 20, 30, 40 cinder blocks. They're super cheap. So, like $50, $60, you can get a ton of cinder blocks. And we actually recycled all the blocks that it was sitting on in the original yard. So all those blocks that you see there are from the original yard back from the owner's house. So he's bringing it in, he's backing it in, and he's going to put it right over that yellow tape and drop it, and that's it. He put it right where I wanted it, and that was perfect. The only thing, when we got it in place, we thought, we're going to go ahead and raise it up. I didn't like it being so low to the ground like that. And that's my dad and my son. That's Noah posing on the front yard there. So here it is after we raised it up and leveled it. We put it's on a little bit of an incline, so we had to put 3 cinder blocks in the front and 1 in the back or something like that. But it just kind of got it up off the ground. I like that because rain's dripping off of these shingles and splashing down on the ground. And this is like T111 pressure treated siding. But if you ever notice, sometimes with these sheds, the first thing that you'll notice when it comes to aging is, splash marks up here where water hits it repeatedly, and it begins to rot and break down. And so that's one of the first things you notice. Oh, I left my slideshow here. So I just kind of wanted to prevent that, so I kind of raised it up a bunch, and right away I wanted to paint it, because I see these sheds on the side of the road, or I see them in people's yards, and you can kind of see them aging sometimes if they don't paint them right away, and I just don't like that. I feel like you're kind of wasting your investment and your money if you don't go ahead and preserve it by putting some high quality paint on it. So here's the inside. This is what it looked like when we moved in onto the property. Taking a sip of coffee here. You'll notice this is 12 feet across here, but you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 studs going across. It's more like 11 and 3/4 inches. These are spaced 24 inch on center, whereas your residential framing is 16 on center. So that will present some interesting challenges later on as we go to finish it out, just because they're 24 inch on center and not the 16. So things like insulation, when you're putting up panel board and stuff like that, it's just, you have to take that in consideration if you ever want to buy one of these and finish it out into a home, is that they're always more than likely going to be 24 on center. And you can maybe pop some studs in here, like if you want to add some framing to it, you might be able to do that. But here's another shot looking from the back of the shed to the front door. So it's just kind of dark and gloomy in there. There was absolutely no windows or doors on this back wall here, but pretty spacious. At this point, when my wife and I bought this shed, we paid cash for it. We were looking to build it out into a tiny house. We were living in a 20-foot RV for about a year and a half before buying this. And so when we stepped foot in this cabin, in this shed, it felt like a mansion because we were used to a 20-foot RV. So this is the very beginnings of my planning of the layout of the cabin. And what I did is I just grabbed some graph paper and I just started, doing things to scale, using like proportions and stuff. You can see I actually numbered it down here, number of feet, like 11 and 3/4 feet. So I was doing things to scale, and then I eventually got a software on my computer where we actually started plugging things in and manipulating things and where stuff would go, because I wanted to be very, very intentional about the layout of the cabin. It's just every inch counts when you're building out a tiny house. So you can see, this is the front door, and this is the loft area up here. Out here is the living area. I intentionally wanted to install some French doors. Didn't do that, just installed a single door. We put a couch here. We ended up doing that. But things like this couch ended up coming way out a little bit further. Just, you have to be careful, do everything to scale. And put as much information, when you start planning things like this, put as much information into it as you possibly can. You can kind of see I was actually accounting for the width of the walls as well a little bit in this very crude. This is like a really rough draft layout and plan, and it changed a lot since doing this. So one of the first things we did, like I said, was we wanted to paint this, because I realized that this T111 is gonna rot pretty quickly. So once water hits it and the sun hits it, it's gonna start to break down and want to decompose. So we want to put some nice paint on it. So we're getting some paint samples and seeing which one we like best. We wanted a paint that kind of blended in with the surrounding area, and just because I felt like I wanted to kind of like lessen my footprint on the property. So where like people come into the property and visit the property, the buildings it doesn't look cluttered or something like that. I kind of wanted something that kind of blended in and kind of match the surrounding area. So we actually chose this dark green over here, and we ended up really liking it. So here's the Here's the color we went. We just slapped some samples up here. You can get samples at Lowe's or whatever. So we slapped some samples up here. We label them, and we were very methodical about choosing a paint color. And here's my wife. She's actually what we decided to do is we put a like a really cheap primer on, and just let the wood kind of just soak that up. The wood was really dry, and so it just absorbed it up like a sponge. And that way we're not putting like $20, $30 a gallon paint on there and it just being soaked up into the wood right away. So we put kind of a cheaper, lower end primer on, and then we put the heavy stuff on. We put the real nice stuff on. So there it is, all primed up. I think that's a picture of my son there. So here's the family helping out, just priming it up. It's kind of a pain painting through all these cracks here, but we didn't have a paint sprayer with us on the property yet. You can kind of see right here all the styrofoam. That'll kind of come into play later as we get further along in the build out process, but all that styrofoam being stored into there, that's going to come in handy. And actually I found that styrofoam on the side of the road, and it was blowing around in the wind, and someone just threw it out there, and they were just hoping the trash would pick it up, and it was just being blown all over the place by the wind. And so I scooped it up, and I was like, this could come in handy. And I think it actually came out of like a trailer or something like that, or like a camper, or you know what, I think it actually came out of like metal roofing for like a pool cage or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's it's like half inch thick styrofoam insulation. So here we are putting the first coat of paint on. That green, like I said, I just wanted to kind of match in with the surrounding. I don't remember the sheen that we did, but as soon as we put it on, we're like, yes, this is an amazing color. We like it a lot. And it really brought out like the wood color a lot and made that look nice. It matches the black, so you can see here, it just kind of like, I don't know, it all just kind of came together here. We might have put like a semi-gloss on it just to give it a little bit of reflective qualities. Here's like the front yard and what it looked like every night as we were working on it. The sunset. Just a beautiful view. The sun going down. Here's our front porch. And there's the dog on the front porch. So here's a little creek that we would go to cool off and swim. A little spring-fed creek, about a quarter of a mile down from our house. And we would go swim here and take a break, enjoy the evening. We're putting some furniture in, just kind of sizing it up a little bit. We put this dining room set in our cabin here. We were right away realized, whoa, like this is a huge footprint in the living room. We need something smaller. We need to be more creative here with that space. We would have to walk around that thing, and we still wanted to put a couch here, so we realized right away that this was actually not going to work, and we took it out. Here is the find of the year for the cabin. My wife, coming from living in the RV for a year and a half, she really wanted a clawfoot tub. She insisted on getting a clawfoot tub, and just was kind of over the whole miniature bathroom thing in the RV. So we found this on Craigslist for $600, but it's not cast iron. It's actually all acrylic. It's a super nice acrylic. It's heavy, but not nearly as heavy as cast iron. And I strapped it to a trailer and got it home. There's my older brother. He helped me unload it. And it was just, it was like a sweet find. And she had worked some overtime hours, and it equaled up to like $600. And I was like, if you want to pay for it with your overtime hours, let's do this. Like that's totally cool with me. And so she basically bought the tub, and it was great. The kids loved it. And so here we are working on some front steps. That's me there drilling the stringers on, and we just attached the bottom of the stringer to like like a 4x6 block, and buried it. And I'm putting the steps on. We use like 2x6 steps on there. And there's my son Noah supervising. that's kind of the finished product of the steps there. Big mess, huh? A lot of a lot of tools out there. But looks a lot nicer than cinder blocks. So here we are framing out the bathroom wall, and the one thing you'll notice is I think I did these on like 18-inch center, and just to kind of space them out a little bit more, and I used 2x6 studs instead of 2x4s. Reason being is because we intended to actually build shelves inside these 2x6. I wanted something a little bit wider so I could basically make it storage as well. So we put the bathtub in there because we couldn't frame it out and then get the bathtub in there, so we had to put the bathtub in there and then frame it out. And that's my father-in-law helping me out there. So here's a kitchen sink I found, or I should say my brother-in-law found, on the side of the road. It's a cast iron sink. We ended up cleaning it up really good, and it looked, like as good as new. It was just sitting out on the side of the road. So that was a big score as well. Here's the bathtub. Everything's kind of taking shape a little bit. So we're moving more junk in. And as you know, the more junk you move in, the harder it is to work on a home. Some of you may know that stuff gets in the way. But I think we ended up putting all this up in the loft. So I had a guy, one thing I don't feel comfortable doing is electrical. And I had the guy wired up, to code and everything. I think I paid this is probably the most expensive part of this whole thing. I paid $900 to have an electrician wire it up to code. And he put, I told him in the plans, he put around 30 or 35 outlets in. Just to give you an idea, I wanted to go crazy with outlets because you can never have too many outlets, you know what I'm saying? And we put outlets just all over the place. And that's just the GFI there in the bathroom. I'm showing for some reason, but yeah, we just had it wired up, you could do this on your own if you feel comfortable doing it. But so what I did is I had him rough all the electric in, and then I actually wired in the outlets and the switches, and that saved me a couple $100 to do that because I felt comfortable wiring up the switches and the outlets, but I just didn't feel comfortable pulling all the wires in and roughing it all in like he did. So that worked out. And we needed some kind of wall board, and so here we are at a local lumber yard looking for some kind of wall board. We ended up finding, there's my son Eli looking at a kitty cat. We ended up finding this right here. This is called beadboard, and you can get beadboard that's like particle board, but you can get beadboard that's actually like real pine. This is real pine beadboard, and my wife loves the look of beadboard, and so she actually found this whole stack of beadboard that the top third of it was destroyed for some reason. It was cracked or had blemishes on it. Well, it worked out because if you look at this, the ceilings or the top of the wall here, it actually only comes up to 6'3" is the top of the ceiling, as opposed to your standard 8-foot ceiling or 8-foot wall. So typically a wallboard that's 4x8 would fit in like a home, but 4x8 wallboard would not fit. We'd have to trim off almost 2 feet off the top. Well, when we found these, it was the top 18 inches of every one of these beadboards was blemished, and so we just cut it off, and the guy discounted these 20% for us. So it was perfect. So we got our beadboard and we got a 20% discount, and I just cut all the blemishes off, and they were perfect. So it's something to think about when you go and you're looking for materials, is look for blemished stuff that you can still just kind of salvage, and you might end up saving a ton of money. Okay, so here is the thing. Now I know YouTube is going to melt down over comments about this styrofoam. I know this is going to be a big hit among the skeptics, but here is the styrofoam that I put in here that I recycled from the side of the road. Now, what I did is I took a pump sprayer and I laid all these out, and I pump sprayed mold killer on every single one of them. And there is no trace and no possibility that there was any mold spores or any insects or anything like that. I went through and inspected every single piece of styrofoam before I brought it into my home. Because believe me, I am a roach. I have a roach phobia, whatever you call that. I cannot do roaches. So I was very meticulous in bringing these in. And also, I hate, just mold and mildew. So these things were super clean. Now, these are just like stains and stuff from like, I don't know, like rust stains or something. I couldn't get those out. But basically, I went through the best of the styrofoam and I cut it down to size using like a box cutter, and I just popped it in there. And I did like double layer styrofoam. So, I don't know. It's not like your R30 fiberglass styrofoam. I know that. And it's probably not the most insulating, stuff I can find. But you know what? It was completely free. And the fact that these are 24-inch on center studs, it saved me a ton of money because finding 24-inch wide insulation, is not only hard in some places, but it can be really expensive. So the styrofoam was perfect. And really, like, I'm in Florida, and I don't need a lot of insulation in the winter. Okay, so this is the beadboard that we nailed up. So like I said, I cut the top third off because it was blemished and just put it up there, and it was perfect. It was really nice to work with. It was good stuff. And here's me putting more of it up around the sides here. So here's the bathroom finished out with the beadboard. Here we got some more light fixtures in. This is like an IKEA light fixture. This is an IKEA sink as well. Let me go back. This is from IKEA, but what I did is I actually bought this off of Craigslist. I think I paid like $25 for it or something like that off Craigslist. So, always look on Craigslist. Look for used stuff. You can just type in the word IKEA sink or something like that, and stuff will come up, and it's like a fraction of the price. And it was a really nice sink still. One of the things I did, right away I realized that we need more light up in the loft area because we were sleeping up in the loft. And so I installed a window here and I installed a window there. Each of these windows were about $50 each, I want to say. And, they were just like exterior mount windows where you just screw in right here. So the hardest part was just taking a skill saw, like a circular saw, and cutting out the hole from that, up that high. But once I got the hole cut, it was super easy. Just popped it in, screwed it, mounted it. And, I think I did go back later and frame it out with some trim. But, just want to be careful while you're up on a ladder and using a circular saw. But other than that, it brought a ton of light in up there and a lot of air circulation as well, because we eventually installed an AC unit up there that was really helpful in cooling the place in the summer. The other thing that I did was I took a door. I actually had to use a trailer door, from like a mobile home supply store. And it was like 6-foot door, or like 6.5 feet. And I installed it on the back. And that way we have another exit, in the event of like a fire or something like that. But also it brought in a ton of light, and it just kind of like you could open up the front door and the back door and on like a cool day and just like let air circulate through. It was really nice. So that's that door. And also we started to paint the beadboard here. We put some white Valspar on it from Lowe's. I think it's called Cotton Blossom. The other thing we needed to do, because our boys were up in the loft, we wanted to build a handrail that went around. We had our two sons up here with us. We built a handrail that went around, and I built it out of 2x4s, and we put chicken wire on it as well. So this is looking across their loft. We put a mattress here and a mattress there, and they loved it up there. It was like a little tree house for them. And I think I've painted it. Yeah, so here's the finished product. So I put a lot of chicken wire up. I did that to keep them up there from slipping through the cracks or something like that and rolling down and falling out, but also just to keep like toys and stuff from falling out as well. So the next thing we had to do was we had to plumb it out. And this is me running a water line. It was about a 230-foot water line from the well pump house to the cabin. And the cabin, like you see here, like you can't even see the cabin because I painted it that green color. And that's kind of what I was going for. I wanted to maintain the natural look of the property. So I trenched all this out, and believe it or not, I did it by hand. In one day, I was just like, I'm going to do this. And that was the worst day of my life because it's a lot of like clay and stuff like that. So yeah, I just popped in some 3/4 inch PVC. And you're probably wondering, why am I going around in like curves like this? Just because I was hitting some like hard pan, like clay and stuff. So I actually had to turn around it. It was insanely hard. I know I could have hired a trencher. I know all that. But you gotta understand, this is out in the middle of nowhere. And to get a trencher here would be difficult. This is me bringing it into the cabin, and I'm just showing where everything's at. The other thing I had to do was tie in a septic system. And we did have a septic tank. It was about 200 feet away, 220 feet away. And it was downhill from us, so everything was to code. And I had the appropriate drop and everything like that. The only thing that I did differently was I used 3-inch instead of 4-inch PVC septic line because it's only one toilet, and I only had the toilet tied into the septic line. That was it. And so they were like, yeah, you can do that because it's not pressurized, and it's only one toilet, and it's totally fine just to use the 3-inch. And this is actually very common to use it in like mobile home communities, to use this 3-inch instead of 4-inch. And it's significantly cheaper and lighter. It's easier to work with. So I appreciated that. This is the hot water heater that we chose. This is an EcoTemp L5. It's a portable propane hot water heater. It's just on-demand hot water. And just, you turn the water on. It ignites the propane and heats your water. It worked very well for us. And it is still working really well, actually. It cost $50, I believe. I had found a sale. It was like buy one, get one on EcoTemp's website. And I love it. It's a great water heater. So here's the drain vent here. I wanted an RV hookup right here, so I eventually installed a 30 amp plug and then put a septic dump here where they could just unscrew this and dump septic in there, and that ended up being really nice and handy. So here's Noah out there in the front yard. This is again just what the front yard looked like for us as we were working. I built the boys a fort out there in the woods. So this is what it's all about, just getting outside and enjoying time with family. There's my other son. So here's like almost the finished product. We've got all the wallboard up. I've got the cabinets in, sink on. I've got shelves and stuff up there. Fire extinguisher, that's really important, I built shelves all the way around this thing. That ladder is like super rickety, and I would build a better ladder next time. But it worked. It was like 1 foot wide, and I wanted to like minimize our footprint with the ladder there, and I did. It worked. It got us through. This is shelving here that I installed because this is like a homeschool area over here. So we don't have a fridge in yet in this picture, but we're gonna put the fridge here. And there's my wife. We got this couch from IKEA, and she's taking a break because she's been working hard just getting everything ready. We just painted the floors. That's another thing too, is we didn't put any flooring down. We put just like floor paint on the floor basically, and it worked really well. As opposed to trying to put flooring in here and everything with like heat and humidity and everything else, we're kind of like, let's just paint the floor and see what it looks like. So we did, and we just put area rugs down, and it turned out really nice. And this is the AC unit that we used to cool the whole place. This cooled the downstairs. It's 5,000 BTU, and it cooled all of the downstairs. So there's the boys playing in there. Okay, so I think this one's out of order because you see the kitchen sink's not there yet. Sorry about that. So here's the bathroom, and the bathroom is just about finished. I think I just need to paint in here and do some trim, but the bathroom is almost squared away. I think I did build some shelving in here for like shampoo and stuff, but it's kind of a preliminary. Oh, there it is. So here is the bathroom. Okay, so there's no toilet. That's what it is. There's no toilet, and here's the toilet. So, and there's shelving and stuff. So this is the finished product of the bathroom for sure. And these are little toothbrush holders here made out of tin soup cans. that we nailed to the wall. But this was a $100 toilet. Wasn't anything fancy. Oh, I was drawing up some plans for the kitchen and what I thought it might look like. And it's just kind of how I envisioned it. And here's the finished product. So go from that. So it's really important you have a plan, you know, and then it's cool to see the plan go to like reality. It didn't turn out exactly like I had planned it, you know, but it was close. And we would move the AC units from time to time. It's not a second AC unit or anything like that. We just used the one AC unit the whole time, but we moved it from time to time and just tried it out in different spots to see if it worked better in different parts of the house. I think we left it here the most because when we were cooking and stuff right here, it would get really hot, and so she would turn the AC on. There's my boys playing the guitars and having fun playing Dad's guitars. Here's the garden I started to build, and you know, this is several months into the garden, obviously. But as soon as we were done with the cabin, we decided, you know what, it's time to grow a garden and start growing some good food. So I got beans and tomatoes and radishes and onions and okra, you name it. We had a lot of stuff going. Had to keep the deer out though. Here is the homeschool area. We homeschool our boys, and so this was kind of like their desk where they can sit up and do their work, you know, when they are inside and when they are doing schoolwork. You know, for the most part, like we try to like get our boys outside, living outside, like, you know, spend their day in the outdoors and fishing and looking at, you know, lizards and snakes and all that good stuff, because you can only learn so much inside sitting at a desk and looking at a book. Those things are all great, but like, get outside, you know, that's where it's at. And this is where, if you're going to move into a tiny house, a tiny cabin, you have to remember that you're going to live the majority of your life outside and doing things like growing a garden. And you cannot live the majority of your day inside a tiny house, especially if you have kids. You have to find an area or a place where you can be outside like most of the waking hours. And also you got to consider, like, you know, is it winter? Are they brutal? Are you going to go crazy if you're inside the cabin during the whole winter? And here in Northwest Florida, we didn't have very hard winter, so we could be outside. You know, just put a jacket on and stuff. So you got to take that into consideration if you're considering on moving into a tiny house. So I think this completes our tiny house conversion. So here is when we like moved in, when we you know, had cooked like our first meal in it and everything. So we are settled into it at this point. My wife is making maybe she's making some homemade pizza. I'm not sure, or some bread. So this is the table we ended up going with. It's a drop leaf table that can be, you know, dropped down to really small, and it fit like 4 chairs inside the table, and that was really nice to have that. So here's the finished product out from the front yard. Here's the camper hooked up with septic and the power and everything else. I think my in-laws were visiting, and you know, I thought it'd be funny when they were sleeping. I went and put a for rent sign on their camper, so when they woke up, they'd see that their camper was for rent when it wasn't really. So that's it, from here to there. Well, thank you guys for watching, and I hope this has been a really cool video for you and instructional. If you're thinking about doing this, feel free to comment down below and ask me any questions if you need any tips or anything like that. I'd love to answer some questions and help you. I can't keep up with all the comments right now, but I'll do my best to keep up with most of them. And I appreciate you guys for watching. If you wouldn't mind, hit the thumbs up button for me and subscribe if you want to stay up to date for more videos like this. All right, guys, take care.